200 feet up a living tree, balanced on climbing spikes, chopping through 3 feet of solid wood with a hand axe, while standing on the section you're cutting. When it falls, and it will fall, the trunk whips. The top you're standing on moves 20 feet in every direction. You hold on. Or you fall 200 feet. Die on impact. That's step 1. This is high lead logging. How America moved logs through the air in the 1920s. Not on the ground, not on railways. Through the air on cables stretching a mile into the forest. Logs weighing 3 tons suspended 100 feet off the ground, flying toward a central spar tree at speeds that could cut a man in half. The system worked because one man climbed a 200-foot tree, topped it, and rigged it with cables that could support tons of force. 1 in 150 loggers in Washington died every year doing this work. 1/3 of 18-year-olds entering logging never reached 65. By the late 1920s, the Pacific Northwest had perfected 2 systems, high lead for steep slopes and Skyline for terrain nothing else could touch. Both used the same basic concept, turn a tree into a crane, but Skyline took it further. Fully suspended logs traveling up to 2,500 feet between 2 spar trees. No ground contact, pure aerial transport. This is how the technology developed, how the men died, and why it all disappeared. Pacific Northwest, 1904. The logging industry has a problem. Easy timber is gone, flat terrain, gentle slopes, ground lead logging, dragging logs behind steam donkeys along skid roads works fine there, but that's logged out. What remains is steep mountainsides, narrow ravines, valleys where skid roads won't fit. The trees are there. Douglas, fir 300 feet tall, Sitka spruce, western red cedar, worth fortunes, but unreachable. You can't drag a 3-ton log up a 40-degree slope. The donkey can't generate enough force. The log slides back, or the whole operation slides downhill. The trees stay standing. The companies lose money. Then around 1904, someone tries something different at a logging operation, possibly Oscar Werkela. Instead of pulling logs horizontally, pull them at an angle. Run the cable through a block at the top of a tall tree. The geometry works. When you pull the cable, the log's front end lifts off the ground, the rear drags, but part of the weight is supported by the cable's vertical component. The log moves uphill easier, can handle steeper terrain. This is high lead logging, the breakthrough that transforms Pacific Northwest logging. By 1912, another innovation appears. North Bend Lumber Company in Washington develops the Skyline system. 2 spar trees, one at the top of the slope, the head spar, one at the bottom, the tail spar. A thick cable, the Skyline, stretches between them, 1.5 to 2 inches in diameter. A steel carriage rides on the Skyline, 4.5 feet by 2.5 feet, weighs 360 kilograms, rolls on 2 wheels. The mainline cable attaches to this carriage, runs down through a fall block. Back to the steam winch at the head spar. A haulback line connects to the fall block, runs to the tail spar and back. When you engage the system, the carriage travels along the Skyline, pulls logs completely off the ground, fully airborne, no dragging, no ground contact, can cross ravines, swamps, boulder fields, terrain that would be impossible with ground-based equipment. The distance between spar trees can reach 2,500 feet, nearly half a mile. Logs flying through the air from one spar to the other. The visual is spectacular. Stand at the head spar, look down the mountainside. Half a mile away, at the tail spar, a log lifts off the ground, rises 50, 100 feet into the air, starts moving toward you, suspended from cables, traveling through space, arrives a few minutes later, gets released, stacked. The system resets. Another log comes, hour after hour. This is industrial-scale aerial logging, and it requires high riggers. High riggers are specialists, the most dangerous job in the most dangerous industry in America. They must be fit. Strong grip to hold an axe for hours. Leg strength to drive climbing spikes through bark into wood. Core strength for balance at 200 feet. But fitness isn't enough. Most people can't function at extreme heights. Vertigo, fear, panic. High riggers suppress that, work through it, remain calm, make precise movements. because one mistake is fatal. The tools are minimal. Climbing spikes strapped to boots, 3 to 4 inch metal spikes. Curved, sharp, kick them into the tree. The spike penetrates bark and sapwood, embeds in solid wood, supports your weight. The technique requires practice. Too light, the spike doesn't penetrate enough. Pulls out when you weight it. Too hard, it goes too deep. Difficult to extract for the next step. You develop a rhythm: kick, embed, weight, lift, kick, repeat. The rope is wire cord for strength, maybe half-inch diameter. Loops around the tree. The rigger leans back. The rope catches him, provides security. As he climbs, he flips the rope up the trunk, keeps it above center of gravity. This is critical. If the rope goes slack, you fall forward into the tree, or backward off it. Either way, you lose control. Fall. Die. The high rigger carries a short-handled axe, 3 to 4 pounds. Sharp blade, one hand uses it, the other hand manages the rope, maintains balance. Each strike is one-handed, limited leverage, but sufficient. He's climbing and chopping simultaneously. Each branch must be removed flush with the trunk. Small branches, one strike. Thick branches, multiple strikes. Chips fly everywhere. Sawdust. Tree sap sticks to everything. Your hands, clothes, face. The smell is overwhelming. Fresh-cut Douglas fir, pine, cedar, pitch, sweat. After an hour of climbing and chopping, your lungs burn. You taste bark dust, breathe it. 200 feet up, every breath is harder. The exertion compounds, but you can't stop long. Muscles cool, cramp. You must maintain momentum. The climb takes hours depending on tree size and branch density. Early spar trees may be required only 70 feet. Modest. By the 1920s, 150 to 200 foot spar trees are standard. That's the height of a 15 to 20 story building. Imagine climbing the outside of that building, with spikes and rope, while wielding an axe, in the forest. No safety equipment, no medical backup. That's the job. When the high rigger reaches the topping point, he stops, evaluates. The tree diameter here should be 3 to 4 feet. The ideal. Too narrow and the remaining tree can't handle the loads. Too wide and you haven't gone high enough. The rigging needs elevation to work effectively. The high rigger positions carefully. Usually on the side away from the fall direction, he starts cutting. Creates a notch first, a V-shaped cut on the side where the top should fall. Controls the direction, prevents spinning or kickback. The notch is maybe 1/3 of the diameter. Then he cuts from the opposite side, level, straight. Any angle causes the top to fall wrong. Could hit the rigger, could catch on branches below, could swing unpredictably. Cutting through 3 to 4 feet of solid wood takes time, one-handed. While balancing, the tree starts giving. You feel it. Small movements. Creaking. You stop. Listen. The wind obscures sounds. You must sense when the cut is deep enough. Too soon, doesn't go through. Too late, the tree falls while you're cutting. Your blade gets pinched. You're trapped. When ready, the tree cracks. Sharp sound, like a gunshot. The top starts falling. Everything happens fast. The top, thousands of pounds, drops, crashes through branches, hits the ground 200 feet below. The impact shakes the forest. You feel it through your feet, and then the whip. The remaining trunk, suddenly relieved of weight, springs back. The tree was bending under the top's weight. Now it's free. The trunk whips. The section where the rigger stands can move 10, 15, 20 feet in multiple directions. Side to side, back and forth, circular. The high rigger's world becomes violent motion. You hold on. Keep the rope tight. Pull yourself against the trunk. Arms burning, legs clenched. The spikes must stay embedded. If one rips free, all weight transfers to the other leg. That spike might not hold. You fall. The whipping lasts seconds. Feels like minutes. Then the tree settles, still swaying, but manageable. The high rigger breathes, checks position, makes sure nothing is broken or bleeding, then continues. The job isn't done. The tree is topped. Now comes rigging. Guy wires install first. Thick steel cables, maybe an inch in diameter, heavy, strong. Each runs from the spar tree to an anchor point 200 to 300 feet away. The angles matter. Too steep, no lateral stability. Too shallow, no toppling prevention. The high rigger attaches fittings to the tree. Wraparound clamps, bolts through the trunk. Each attachment must be solid. When logs pull, thousands of pounds of tension goes through the guy wires. One failure collapses everything. Usually 3 to 6 guy wires in the top set, positioned radially around the tree, then a second set halfway up. More wires, more anchors. Installation takes hours. The high rigger climbs up and down repeatedly, attaching, adjusting, checking. Ground crews install the anchors meanwhile. Some use stumps, others use standing trees. The best use dead men, large logs buried deep with the guy wire attached. Each anchor must hold multiple tons. The crews test them. Pull with the donkey. Make sure nothing shifts. If an anchor fails during operation, the spar tree falls. Everyone dies. Block installation is the most dangerous rigging phase. The mainline block weighs 300 to 500 pounds depending on size. Solid steel. Multiple sheaves. Large grooved wheels for the cable. This block hangs near the top of the spar tree. The process: a small block called a straw block gets lashed near the very top. A rope runs through this block. One end connects to the mainline block on the ground. The other connects to the haulback from the donkey. The donkey pulls. The rope lifts the mainline block. Slowly, hundreds of pounds of steel rising through air. The high rigger guides it, prevents catching on branches, prevents swinging into the tree. When it reaches position, he secures it, attaches to pre-installed fittings, tests the installation, bounces on it, pulls, makes sure it's solid. If this block falls during operation, it's a 500-pound projectile falling 150 feet. Kills everyone below, destroys equipment, ends operations. Installation must be perfect. Finally, working lines get strung. The main line is thick steel cable, 1.5 inch diameter. Runs from the donkey up and over the mainline block, extends into the forest sometimes a mile or more. The haulback line runs parallel, creates a loop system. These cables weigh tons. Stringing requires the entire crew. The donkey slowly feeds cable. Ground crews guide it. Keep it from snagging on stumps, logs, rocks. The cable can't drag over sharp edges. It frays, weakens. Each cable must run smoothly. When everything is strung, tested, secured, the spar tree is complete. A towering stripped pole, guy wires radiating outward like tent supports, blocks hanging from the top, cables disappearing into forest. It looks impossible, but it works until something fails. If you're the kind of person who believes these stories deserve to be remembered, hit subscribe. This channel exists because people like you refuse to let history disappear. The men who worked high lead, logging died at rates that would be criminal today, 1 in 150 annually. But they kept working because families needed food and no alternatives existed. Subscribe if you think their sacrifice matters. The actual logging process involves multiple specialized roles. Fallers cut trees down, buckers cut them into lengths. Then the rigging crew takes over. Choker setters are ground workers wrapping steel cables, chokers around logs. Each choker is a short cable with a loop or hook. Gets placed around the log. Tightened. Connected to butt rigging, the assembly where mainline and haulback meet. Choker setters work in the forest, often out of sight of the spar tree, surrounded by felled timber, navigating slash and debris. They attach chokers and signal ready. The signal goes to the whistle punk, usually a young worker operating a thin cable connected to the steam whistle on the donkey. The whistle punk sends whistle codes. Different patterns mean different things. 1 short blast, stop. 2 blasts, go ahead slowly. 3 blasts, go ahead fast, highball. The whistles carry across the forest. Let the donkey puncher know what the crew needs. The donkey puncher operates the steam donkey, controls 2 main drums, mainline and haulback. When he gets the signal that chokers are attached and crew is clear, he engages the mainline. The cable pulls tight, starts moving. The logs begin rising. This is where high lead becomes spectacular. The main line runs up and over the spar tree. As it pulls, logs lift partially off the ground. The front end, where chokers attach, rises first, comes completely off the ground. The rear end drags, creating the high lead effect. The log is neither fully suspended nor dragged flat. It's angled. I'm flying at the front, scraping at the back, moving fast. From a distance, you see the spar tree, a strip pole visible above the canopy. Cables radiate from it like spider webbing. Then logs appear, rising from forest, suspended from cables, moving toward the spar tree. Sometimes one log, often 2 or 3 chained together, 50 feet long, 3 feet in diameter, thousands of pounds, and they're flying, literally airborne at the front end, 30, 40, 50 feet off the ground, swinging slightly as they move. The motion is smooth when everything works. The log glides through air, crashes through smaller timber, breaks branches, knocks down saplings, leaves a destruction swath through forest. But it's not always smooth. The forest is chaotic. Stumps, already fallen logs, rocks, ravines. The pulled log catches on something. Stops suddenly. The cable goes slack momentarily, then snaps tight. The log jerks, swings sideways, or flips. When a multi-ton log moving at speed catches on a stump, something gives. Sometimes the stump breaks. Sometimes the log breaks free. Sometimes the cable breaks. The sound of a log breaking free is distinctive. A crack as wood tears. The whoosh as the log launches. If the cable breaks, the sound is worse. A metallic snap, then the cable whips, both ends moving at lethal velocity. The cable can slice through a standing tree, cut it in half. Imagine what it does to human flesh. The Skyline system takes this further. Fully suspended logs, no ground contact. The Skyline cable stretches between head and tail spars, up to 2,500 feet, nearly half a mile. The engineering is precise. The Skyline cable is thick, in 1.5 to 2 inches in diameter. Steel rope with multiple strands, each strand composed of multiple wires twisted together. The cable must support enormous loads while maintaining flexibility. The cable runs over a tree shoe, a groove fitting at the top of each spar tree, gets tightened and fixed at each end. The tension must be exact. Too loose and the cable sags excessively under load. The carriage can't travel smoothly. Too tight and the cable risks breakage. The allowable sag is typically 5% deflection, calculated carefully. A 2,500-foot Skyline with proper tension might sag 125 feet at the midpoint when unloaded. Under load, it sags more. The steel carriage measures 4.5 feet by 2.5 feet, weighs 360 kilograms, about 800 pounds empty, fits over the Skyline cable. Runs on 2 grooved wheels that grip the cable. The wheels are steel, machined precisely, must roll smoothly while maintaining grip. The carriage is the critical component that makes Skyline logging possible. The main line is a wire rope 1 inch in diameter. One end attaches to the carriage. The cable runs down through a fall block, a pulley block that hangs below the carriage. Then the main line runs over the high lead wheel near the top of the head spar. Finally connects to the winch drum at the steam donkey. The haulback or tail rope is smaller, 1/2 to 5/8 inch diameter, attaches to the fall block, runs to a wheel at the base of the tail spar, then back over another wheel on the head spar, returns to the winch drum. This creates the closed loop system. A butt chain attaches to the fall block, connects to chokers. The chokers wrap around logs. When the system engages, the main line pulls. The carriage travels along the Skyline toward the head spar. The fall block hangs below. The logs hang from the fall block, completely suspended. No ground contact. The haulback controls return motion. After logs get delivered and unhooked, the haulback pulls the carriage back to the tail spar, ready for the next turn. The steam winch sits on a timber sled for mobility. Has large cylinders, 10 by 12 inches or greater. Operates at 140 to 200 pounds steam pressure. Friction machines have 2 drums for logging, main and tail rope, plus 1 drum for loading. Geared machines need an additional engine for loading operations. The Skyline system can log a strip up to 5 chains wide on either side. That's 330 feet in each direction. Total corridor width of 660 feet. Combined with the 2,500-foot length, a single Skyline setup can harvest over 75 acres. Working in conjunction with high-lead systems, a combined operation can potentially log 500 acres or more without moving major equipment. The advantages are substantial. Fully suspended logs don't damage the forest floor. Environmental disruption is minimal compared to ground skidding. Can cross terrain completely impassable to ground-based equipment, ravines, swamps, boulder fields, stream beds. The logs fly over it all. Productivity is high. Once set up, the system moves logs rapidly. A good crew with a well-tuned Skyline can yard hundreds of logs per day. But the setup time is substantial. Installing 2 spar trees, stringing the Skyline, rigging all the lines, testing the system. Takes days or weeks depending on terrain and crew experience. And the danger is multiplied. You have 2 spar trees that can fail instead of 1. The Skyline cable can break catastrophically. The carriage can derail from the Skyline. The fall block can detach. Any failure drops the load. Could be a 3-ton log suspended 100 feet in the air. When it falls, it kills anyone below. The corridor beneath an active Skyline is a death zone. Workers must stay clear, but sometimes they don't, or can't. The logs are traveling through air at speed. The path isn't always predictable. Wind affects suspended logs. They swing, spin. A gust can push a log 10 feet sideways, into a worker, into standing timber, into the ground. Catastrophic. The daily operations on a Skyline site are orchestrated carefully. The hook tender is the boss of the rigging crew, experienced, knows the terrain, knows the limits of the equipment, knows how far to push before something breaks. He directs the choker setters where to work, which logs to pull first, how to attach the chokers for optimal balance. The choker setters work at the tail spar, or in the strip being logged. They navigate felled timber, select logs, wrap chokers. The chokers are short lengths of cable with specialized fittings. A bell on one end, an eye on the other. The bell fits through the eye to create a loop that tightens around the log. Some logs require 1 choker. Large logs might need 2. Multiple small logs can be chained together and pulled as a set. The art is in the attachment. Place the choker wrong and the log hangs at a bad angle. Spins during travel, can flip or swing uncontrollably. Place it right and the log hangs balanced. Travels smoothly, arrives safely. The choker setters signal when ready. The whistle punk relays to the donkey puncher. The donkey puncher engages the main line. The carriage starts moving along the Skyline. The main line tightens. The fall block rises. The logs lift completely off the ground. This is the critical moment. If anything's going to go wrong, it happens now. A choker placed incorrectly shifts. The log tilts, begins spinning. The crew watches. Can't do anything. The log is already airborne, moving. If it's going to fall, it falls. If it's going to swing into something, it swings. The donkey puncher might see it, might stop the pull, but often the log is out of sight behind trees or terrain. He's operating blind, relying on the crew to signal problems. Sometimes the signals come too late. The logs travel the Skyline corridor, rising as they go. And the carriage is climbing the cable from tail spar to head spar. The cable sags under load. The carriage rides up the sag. The logs hang maybe 50 feet below the carriage, sometimes more if the fall block has extra line out. From the ground, watching a Skyline operation is mesmerizing and terrifying. The logs appear from behind trees or over a ridge, already airborne, already moving. They're high above the forest floor, swinging slightly, sometimes spinning slowly. The sound is distinctive. The hum of the Skyline cable under tension, the rumble of the steam donkey, the crash when logs occasionally brush treetops. The crew member's shouts relaying information. Everything is loud, constant, overwhelming. When the logs arrive at the head spar landing, the donkey puncher slows, stops the main line, the logs lower, the chaser moves in, disconnects the chokers while logs are still slightly suspended, safer than waiting until they're on the ground where the weight fully settles. He works fast, Unhooks, jumps clear, signals ready. The donkey puncher engages the haulback. The carriage begins its return journey along the skyline. Empty now, moving faster, back to the tail spar for the next turn. The cycle repeats and repeats, hour after hour. The logs pile up at the head spar landing, get loaded onto rail cars or trucks, hauled to the mill. These men didn't have YouTube channels. They didn't have anyone telling their story. We're changing that. If you believe their sacrifice deserves recognition, hit subscribe. High Lead and Skyline logging killed men at industrial scales. But the companies didn't care. Labor was cheap. Workers replaceable. The timber had to move. Subscribe if you think these workers deserve better than being forgotten. The accident rate is horrifying. Documented statistics from early 20th century show 1 in 150 loggers in Washington died annually. 1/3 of 18-year-olds entering logging didn't live to 65. Every year, 1 in 5 loggers suffered injury. 1 in 8 mill workers injured. These are documented numbers from state reports. Actual rates may be higher because many accidents went unreported. Companies avoided scrutiny. Families avoided trouble. Dead workers got buried. Injured workers got replaced. Operations continued. High Lead and Skyline logging specifically increased accident rates. Moving logs through air above workers' heads creates new hazards. Cable failure, a cable under tension carries enormous force. When it breaks, the ends whip at speeds that cut through anything. Trees, equipment, human bodies. A snapped cable can decapitate, slice someone in half. The violence is instant, unsurvivable. Cables fail for many reasons: metal fatigue, corrosion, overloading, sharp bends over pulleys, debris cutting strands, poor maintenance. The cables get inspected, but not frequently enough. Problems get missed. The cable looks fine, then suddenly fails under load. No warning. Block failure. The blocks, massive steel pulleys hanging from the spar tree, sometimes fail. Attachment points break, the block falls or swings. Hundreds of pounds of steel moving at speed, falls 150 feet, hits whatever's below, crushes it, or swings on remaining cable, pendulums through air, hits workers, equipment, trees, destroys everything in its path. Spar tree failure. The spar tree is under constant stress. Guy wires prevent toppling, but the tree itself can fail. Internal rot weakens it. Repeated stress causes fatigue fractures. The wood splits. When a spar tree fails during operation, catastrophe follows. The tree falls. Cables go slack, then snap tight in new directions. The block falls. Logs being pulled drop or swing wildly. The donkey puncher loses control. Workers near the spar tree have seconds to react. Usually not enough time. The falling tree crushes some. Flying cables kill others. Swinging logs catch more. One spar tree failure can kill a dozen men. Erase an entire crew. In a skyline system, when either spar fails, the entire skyline collapses. The cable with its carriage and suspended load crashes to the ground. Any workers in that half-mile corridor risk death. Log-related accidents. Logs moving through air are unpredictable. They swing, spin, hit obstacles, change direction suddenly. Workers try staying clear, usually succeed, sometimes don't. A log swings sideways, catches a worker, crushes him against a tree or ground. A log moving at highball speed doesn't stop. Multiple tons of mass moving fast. Anything in the path gets destroyed. Workers also die from logs at the landing. The coal deck is a chaotic pile. Logs stacked loosely, unstable. When new logs get added, the pile shifts. Logs roll, fall, crush chasers working at the base. The ground crew faces different hazards. Choker setters work among felled timber. Slash, debris. Unstable logs that can roll unexpectedly. They're often out of sight of the rest of the crew, working alone or in pairs. When something goes wrong, help is far away. Logs roll. Pin workers. Crush them slowly. They scream. Everyone hears. Nobody can help in time. The weight is too much. Moving the log requires the donkey. By the time crew responds, relocates equipment, pulls the log off, the worker is dead, or wishes he was, crushed internally, dying slowly over hours or days. No medical care exists in remote logging camps. Nearest doctor might be days away by foot and rail. Working conditions beyond accidents are brutal. Crews work 10 to 12-hour days, sometimes longer, start at dawn, work until dark or until too dangerous to continue. 6 days a week, sometimes 7 during peak season. Pay is better than farming, worse than skilled trades. A logger might make $3 to $5 per day depending on role and experience. That's $96 to $160 in modern dollars accounting for inflation. High riggers earn more, $5 to $7 per day, because few men can or will do the work. Donkey punchers make similar wages. Skilled operators are valuable. Choker setters and other ground crew make less, maybe $2.50 to $4 per day. That's $80 to $128 modern. But even these wages barely suffice, especially considering the danger. A family of 4 in the 1920s needs maybe $15 to $20 per week to survive. Rent, food, clothes, heating. A logger making $3.50 per day works 6 days, earns $21 weekly, slightly above subsistence, no savings, no cushion for injury or unemployment. One accident means financial ruin for the family. Consider the economics. Risk your life daily. 1/3 chance you don't reach retirement. 1 in 5 chance you're injured this year. For wages barely supporting a family. What's the alternative? Farming is harder and pays less. Small farmers in the Pacific Northwest struggle. Cleared land is expensive. Seeds, tools, livestock require capital. First years produce little income. Many fail, lose everything. Factory work doesn't exist in rural logging areas. The few mills hire some workers, but not enough. Mining's more dangerous than logging and pays similarly. Underground coal mining, hard rock mining for gold, silver, copper. The accident rates are comparable or worse. So men log, they accept risks. Watch friends die, keep working. Families need food, rent needs paying. No safety net exists. No workman's compensation in early decades. The first comprehensive workmen's compensation laws in Washington don't pass until 1911. Even then, coverage is minimal. Payments barely cover funeral costs. No long-term support for widows or orphans. So no insurance beyond what companies might voluntarily provide, which is rare. No pensions. You work until injured too severely to continue, or until you die. Then your family starves unless they have other income. Women might take in laundry, work as hashers in logging camps. Children as young as 12 or 14 might work as whistlepunks or camp helpers. The entire family works to survive. The specific ways men die tell the real story. A high rigger named W.E. Illman was photographed atop a top spar tree in 1929. Picture shows him standing on the cut top. Tiny figure against the sky. Guy wires visible radiating down. The photo survived. Whether Illman survived his career is unknown. Most high riggers don't. They fall eventually, or get hit by falling blocks, or the spar tree fails under them. A choker setter working for Merrill and Ring Logging Company in Clallam County misses a signal. The donkey puncher engages the main line. The log lifts. The choker setter is still attaching the second choker. The cable tightens, catches his arm, pulls him off his feet, drags him into a stump, crushes his chest. He's dead before the crew can stop the donkey. No one records his name, just choker setter killed. Date unknown. Operation continues. A donkey puncher at Polson Logging Company near Hoquiam is operating a Skyline system. A log weighing 4,000 pounds is suspended 80 feet in the air. The Skyline cable sags. More than expected, the weight is too much. The cable is old, fatigued. As the carriage travels, the cable stretches, sags further. The log descends, contacts a standing snag, spins. The carriage derails from the Skyline. Both the carriage and log fall. The log hits the donkey puncher's position. He sees it coming, has maybe 2 seconds, not enough time to run, not enough space to escape. The log crushes the donkey sled, crushes him. The steam boiler ruptures, scalds the surrounding crew. 3 men die, 4 injured seriously. The company reports equipment failure, rebuilds the site, resumes operations 3 weeks later. The cost in human life goes uncounted. At Puget Sound Mill and Timber Company near Twin around 1922, a crew is loading logs onto skeleton rail cars. The spar tree is rigged for loading. Logs are being lifted from the cold deck, swung over the rail car, lowered onto the car. A straightforward operation, done hundreds of times. But this time, the mainline block fitting fails. It's been under stress for weeks. Metal fatigue, microscopic cracks spreading, finally gives way. The block falls. 500 pounds of steel dropping 150 feet. Hits a worker standing on the rail car. Kills him instantly. Continues falling. Hits the rail car. Derails it. The car is loaded with logs, thousands of pounds. Tips over, the logs roll. Catch 2 more workers. One dies immediately. The other is pinched between logs. Takes 4 hours to free him using the donkey to carefully pull logs away. He dies 2 days later from internal injuries. The block failure kills 3 men in seconds. The company reports accident during loading operations. The foreman who rigged the spar tree is fired. Whether the block was inspected properly. Whether the company provided adequate equipment. These questions go unasked. The next crew finishes the loading. A whistlepunk at Greenwood Logging Company around 1930 is standing at his position. The signal wire runs from his location to the donkey whistle. He's 16 years old, started working 3 months ago, needs money for family. Father died in a logging accident 2 years prior. Mother takes in laundry. 4 younger siblings. He pulls the signal wire. 2 blasts. Go ahead slowly. The donkey puncher responds. The main line tightens. What the whistlepunk doesn't see, a choker setter is still working. Not clear. The signal should have been wait, but communication breaks down. The forest is loud. Visibility is poor. The log starts moving. The choker setter screams. The whistlepunk hears. Pulls the stop signal frantically. 1 short blast. The donkey puncher responds. But momentum exists. The log is already moving. Catches the choker setter. It rolls over him. The whistlepunk runs to the scene, sees the result, quits immediately, walks out of the forest, never returns to logging. The family loses the income, must find another way to survive. These accidents aren't anomalies. They're routine, expected, part of the job. The companies maintain minimal records. State agencies collect statistics, but enforcement is weak. The lumber companies are powerful, politically connected. They resist regulation. When Washington passes industrial safety laws in the 1910s, the lumber industry lobbies for exemptions, argues that logging is unique, can't be made safe. Regulations would kill the industry, make operations uneconomical. The arguments prevail. Safety standards remain minimal through the 1920s and 30s. Companies do the minimum legally required, often less. Inspections are rare. Penalties are minimal. The cost-benefit analysis favors ignoring safety. Fines for violations might be $100. Installing proper equipment costs thousands. Training takes time, slows production, so companies skip it. Keep production high, accept the accident rate. It's cheaper to pay occasional fines and bury workers than to implement real safety measures. The workers know this, understand the calculation. But what choice exists? Refuse to work and starve, or work and risk death. Most choose work, hope they're lucky, hope they're skilled enough, hope they survive. Many do, many don't. The lumber companies don't lose sleep. The timber must move. The profit must grow. The workers are expendable, replaceable. Always another man desperate enough to take the job. This is the reality of industrial logging in the early 20th century Pacific Northwest. Logging camps are temporary settlements, built near active sites, moved when an area is logged out. The camps consist of bunkhouses, cookhouses, equipment sheds, storage, blacksmith shop. Bunkhouses are rough, maybe 100 feet long, 30 feet wide, 2-story bunks lining both walls. Sleep 50 to 100 men. The bunks are small, 2 men per full-sized bunk. You share with a partner. Hope he doesn't snore, or smell bad, or have lice. Privacy doesn't exist. Personal space doesn't exist. You live in a dormitory with dozens of other men. The cookhouse is the social center. Feeds the entire crew. 3 massive meals daily. Breakfast before dawn, lunch at midday, dinner after dark. The food is basic, filling, high calorie. Men burn 4,000 to 5,000 calories daily doing logging work. Need protein, fats, carbohydrates. The cooks provide it. Pancakes, bacon, beans, potatoes, stew, bread, coffee, pie, not fancy, but plentiful. The rule is silence during meals. No talking. Eat efficiently, get back to work. The cook and hashers, usually women, serve hundreds of men. Keep food coming, clean up, start preparing the next meal. It's continuous work. If you want to go deeper into these stories, if you want early access to videos before anyone else sees them, join the membership. It's for people who don't just watch history, they carry it forward. High lead and Skyline logging transformed the Pacific Northwest, enabled massive timber harvesting, built fortunes for companies, killed workers by the hundreds. The membership helps us tell these stories completely. Join if you want to be part of keeping this history alive. By the 1930s and 1940s, the systems evolve. Steel spars begin replacing wooden spar trees. Steel is stronger, doesn't rot, can be moved and reused, reduces the dangerous work of topping trees, but doesn't eliminate danger. The system still moves multi-ton logs through air at high speeds. Steel cables still fail, equipment still crushes workers. The fundamental risks remain. Technology improves gradually. Better cables, stronger blocks, more reliable donkeys. Diesel replaces steam, more power, easier maintenance, but the work stays dangerous. The 1940s and 50s see chainsaw introduction. Makes falling faster, safer in some ways, more dangerous in others. A chainsaw can cut through a leg instantly. Accidents shift, but don't decrease significantly. Logging remains one of America's most dangerous occupations. Through the 1960s and 70s, high lead and Skyline continue, but face competition from other methods. Ground-based equipment improves. Skidders, log loaders, can move logs without aerial cables. Simpler, less setup, more flexible. Gradually, cable logging declines. Not eliminated, still used in specific terrain, but no longer dominant. By the 1980s and 90s, helicopter logging appears in some areas, literally lift logs with helicopters. Expensive but extremely effective in steep terrain. Can access areas even Skyline can't. Modern logging uses a mix of methods. High lead and Skyline still exist, but are rare. The massive spar trees are gone. The old-growth forests that provided them are logged out. What remains are second-growth operations using different techniques. The legacy is complex. Cable logging enabled harvesting of previously inaccessible timber, made the Pacific Northwest lumber industry possible at achieved scales, provided employment for thousands, built economies, created towns, but also killed workers at horrifying rates, destroyed old-growth forests, left environmental damage persisting today. The men who worked high lead and Skyline logging were tough, skilled, brave to the point of recklessness. They did impossible work under impossible conditions. Many died, most were injured at some point, few got rich, the companies profited, the workers got wages and graves. That's the equation. Today, cable logging is mostly forgotten. A few museums have exhibits. Some photographs survive. Old equipment rusts in forests. But the men who climbed 200-foot trees, who rigged massive cables, who worked under flying logs, they're mostly erased from history. A few family stories persist. Some names in old records, but most are gone, unknown, forgotten. The timber they harvested built Seattle, Portland, Tacoma, San Francisco, cities across America, houses, buildings, infrastructure, all built from logs pulled through the air by cables strung from towering spar trees. The logs are gone, the buildings are gone, the workers are gone. What remains is knowledge that this happened. that men did this work, that they died doing it, that their labor and lives made the modern Pacific Northwest possible. That's worth remembering, not romanticizing, not glorifying, just remembering, acknowledging. These men existed. Their work mattered. Their deaths mattered. They're part of the story. High-lead and Skyline logging were dangerous, brutal, exploitative. They were also innovative, effective, revolutionary. Both things are true. The companies profited while workers died. The timber industry grew while forests disappeared. The cities rose while men fell from 200-foot trees. That's the complexity. That's the reality. That's what we remember.